Good happy Wednesday morning, December 5th, 2018. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. First up, George H. W. Bush remembered at Wreath Laying ceremony at Walker's Point. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Andy Hirschberger.
Does your dog struggle to learn the basics?
Off, stay, no.
Emmy-winning TV host and expert dog trainer Brendan.
It was a simple ceremony with such profound meaning for the people of this town. The Kennebunkport Select Board, firefighters, and neighbors of George Herbert Walker Bush gathered near the front yard of his family compound to say their personal goodbyes.
We will miss you, Mr. President, but we're awfully glad that we knew you.
This wreath laying drew only about 40 or so people, but many felt a personal connection to the man who spent much of his life on the world stage and still realized the importance of the person who lived next door.
He wasn't just the president, he was a resident here, and everyone in the community just loved the Bushes. And it's just an honor to be here and remember him.
When he came off his boat, stop, talk to everybody that was there, shake hands, hold the kids, take pictures. But, you know, it wasn't a put on, it was what he was. He was a great guy.
I just think they were outstanding members of the community as well as being leaders for the whole country.
And there were prayers offered for the family and the nation he left behind.
He's a good guy. His whole family's a good. They're all good. Yep. We lost the best man in the country.
It is that type of emotion that you sensed here today and will probably continue to sense through the day and morning tomorrow. Reporting live, I'm Andy Hirschberger, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Concord man arrested after CIA flagged threats against New Hampshire governor and Jewish community. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Siobhan Lopez.
38-year-old Brian Roberts of Concord is charged with criminal threatening, accused of making violent threats against the governor and Jewish community.
The Jewish community across New Hampshire, but particularly the community in Concord, is enormously relieved that somebody has been arrested.
According to the Attorney General's office, Roberts posted a message to the CIA's website stating he was, quote, going to shoot the governor of the state of New Hampshire no matter what.
The help we got from the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force all allowed us to track this individual down and make this arrest prior to there being any incident.
Governor Chris Sununu released a statement saying law enforcement should be commended for their swift response in investigating, identifying, and apprehending the suspect. Racism, anti-Semitism, and threats of any kind will not be tolerated in New Hampshire. Investigators say Roberts also expressed hatred toward Jewish people. This comes just over a month after the deadly synagogue shooting in Pittsburgh.
In a season that's supposed to be about light and joy, whether you're Jewish or Muslim or Christian, and the fact that he lessened the joy and heightened the anxiety of this community and breaking the law the way he did, I hope that he's held accountable.
More charges are possible. Roberts is due in court tomorrow morning. We're live in Concord tonight. Siobhan Lopez, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Person of interest thought after mobile home destroyed by fire in Franklin. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Suzanne Rowntree.
Police and fire department, as well as the state fire marshal's office, want to speak to this man. His picture was taken from a surveillance system at the mobile home that was destroyed by fire on Monday night. Franklin fire officials were called to LaBranche's trailer park just after 11 o'clock. Evelyn Hunt heard 2 loud bangs and a beeping horn, and when she looked out her window, the home next door was on fire.
As you can see, there's an AC unit over there. That's where the fire was mainly, and then in minutes, it was all in home.
And the Franklin engine that arrived first found a mobile home fully involved with exposures to 2 adjacent mobile homes on the left and on the right.
Officials say no one was inside the Rose Lane home, which is a complete loss. This morning, Franklin police say the homeowner's family dropped off a surveillance video showing a man leaving the area of the fire. Police are hoping someone will recognize him. Fire officials are looking to see how and where the fire started.
We do have a video, and we're looking at that, as well as doing an on-scene investigation at this time.
Now, police say the man in the picture is considered a person of interest, and community residents say they hope that the cause of the fire is determined quickly so that they can get back to living in their quiet community. Live in Franklin, Suzanne Rowntree, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Heated race for New Hampshire Secretary of State will be decided Wednesday morning. Let's take a listen to the video from WMUR News 9, Adam Sexton.
The race for Secretary of State pits 21-term incumbent Bill Gardner against Colin Van Osteren, the 2016 Democratic nominee for governor. Gardner is revered as a legend of New Hampshire politics, but some believe the time has come for him to move on. He's also taken heat from Democrats for backing Republican-sponsored election legislation and for serving on President Trump's Election Integrity Commission. Van Osteren is positioning himself as the reform candidate, but he has faced criticism for running a modern campaign with fundraising and a political action committee. And Republicans and some Democrats believe he will make the Secretary of State's office much more partisan. All of that comes to a head on Wednesday morning. Let's break down the vote. Now, this is an insider affair, a secret ballot of the 424 state legislators, the combined New Hampshire House and Senate. Van Osteren draws his support almost exclusively from Democrats, and his most ardent advocates are the newly elected lawmakers who see themselves riding a blue wave of change and reform. In a straw vote last month, House Democrats decisively voted in favor of Van Osteren, 179 to 23. It's probably safe to say Van Osteren's backing is more organized, more ideologically unified, and potentially more cohesive, that is, less likely to waffle when it comes time to vote. Now, Secretary Gardner's support is much more eclectic. His most vocal supporter is State Senator Lou D'Alessandro, who was actually Gardner's civics teacher at Bishop Bradley High School back in the 1960s in Manchester. Republicans are also expected to back Gardner, but they are most definitely the wild card in this contest, and the track record for Republican unity in Concord is not great. They fractured on several key votes in the last session, particularly in the House. Yes, this is a new legislature, but that's been a consistent issue for the GOP in Concord for a while now. However, their mutual loathing of Van Osteren and the binary nature of this race may be enough to hold things together. But make no mistake, if Van Osteren's Democratic support holds and Republicans don't line up almost 100% behind the incumbent, Gardner is done. A quick note on the state Senate. It appears to be more evenly divided there between Van Osteren and Gardner, but it brings just 24 votes to the table. It's important for Gardner not to lose ground there either, but it's really the House that's going to decide this race just based on the sheer numbers. Okay, here's where things get interesting. We know Secretary Gardner starts with perhaps a couple dozen Democratic supporters in the House. Since he only began campaigning in earnest in the last couple of weeks, perhaps he's picked up a few more. Just how many he's gained or lost is a big and important question mark. Another variable is attendance. Seeing all 424 reps and senators in Concord for this vote would be a surprise. In fact, the House clerk says he knows of a handful of absences already. If this is a close race, absences are going to play a role in the outcome. Now, the incoming House features 233 Democrats and 167 Republicans. The incoming Senate, 14 Democrats and 10 Republicans. To win, Gardner needs to split the Senate, hold on to his Republican support in the House, and make up ground with Democratic state reps, maybe somewhere between a dozen or 2 dozen votes. Van Oostren's most obvious path to victory is much cleaner than that. Just carry the Democrats by the same decisive margins he did in that original straw vote. There's one last potential twist here that could put Van Oostren over the top. The last 2 town voting days featured major snowstorms. Some town officials wanted to delay voting, and Secretary Gardner took a very hard line against that. Now, it just so happens there are state reps, both Republicans and Democrats, who are also involved in town government who feel Gardner overstepped his authority there. In a close race, they too could be casting decisive ballots. The vote is expected sometime late morning or midday on Wednesday. The outcome, no matter what happens, will be one of the biggest political stories of the year in New Hampshire. Either Secretary Bill Gardner will be voted out of office in a somewhat unceremonious end to his career, or he will notch yet another victory for the history books. Adam Sexton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. It's just a test. Sirens to sound Wednesday at Seabrook Nuclear Power Plant. You may hear a siren coming from the Seabrook Station Nuclear Power Plant on Wednesday morning, but don't worry, it's just a drill. The sirens will sound between 7 to 10 a.m., officials said. Officials said the alarm is part of a scheduled on-site training activity. No action is needed from the public, officials said. And the stock market is closed today due to National Mourning Day for President 41, and also government buildings and banks will be closed today as well. Thousands line up overnight to pay respect to George H.W. Bush. Let's take a listen to the video from ABC News.
And I just gotta say, if you're gonna ask him for tech this year, you gotta ask for Fios too.
Sorry, why is that?
Because Fios is a 100% fiber optic network. Don't you guys want all of the tech on your wish list to work as awesomely as you dreamed?
I'm back.
And he's back.
100% fiber optic network, 100% phenomenal. Switch to Fios gigabit connection plus TV and phone with a 2-year agreement and get a year of Amazon Prime on us.
Well, we're going to turn now to the National Day of Mourning for former President George H.W. Bush. Dignitaries from around the world are set to gather for a state funeral that's just hours away from now.
The Bush family made an unexpected return visit to the Capitol last night, placing their hands on the casket. And the lines outside have not let up. Even at 2 a.m., crowds were still waiting to pay their respects. Up to 2,000 people an hour have been pouring into the Capitol Rotunda.
It's amazing to see, and all of this for a man who once, when planning this moment, questioned with his typical humility whether anyone would come. Well, ABC's Emily Rao is there for us, and Emily, it's quite clear that people did come, and they came in some pretty impressive numbers.
Megan, Terrell, good morning. It really is pretty special. It's about 35 degrees in Washington right now, but that is not stopping thousands of people from coming out, standing in the cold for hours to get in line and pay their respects on this National Day of Mourning.
The line snaking around the grounds of the Capitol. Thousands eager to pay their respects to the 41st president. Tuesday evening, the Bush family returning to the rotunda for a surprise visit to greet the public.
All day, a steady stream of dignitaries, sports icons, and everyday Americans like Karen Hitzelberger, grateful to President Bush for signing the landmark Americans with Disabilities Act.
If there was any president that I want to pay my respects to, it's the man who helped pass the law that ensures that I have the same freedoms as everyone else.
And this poignant moment, fellow World War II hero Bob Dole helped to his feet to deliver a touching salute to his former political rival. Earlier in the day, President Trump and First Lady Melania stopping by Blair House, where the Bush family is staying, to personally share their condolences. At the state funeral set for today at the National Cathedral, President Trump will join all living presidents and first ladies, along with a host of world leaders, putting aside politics to honor a president and a patriarch before he makes his final journey home to Houston. President George W. Bush will eulogize his father at today's service. And an interesting fact about Sully, the service dog that America has fallen in love with, well, Sully could be at that service in the cathedral today because of that Americans with Disabilities Act that the elder Bush signed into law in 1990. Maggie, Terrell?
We certainly have fallen in love with Sully. Emily, thank you so much. And ABC News will bring you live coverage of this morning's state funeral beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern, on air and online.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And beginning at 10 a.m., once that live coverage begins, we will share a link with you of that live coverage beginning at 10 a.m. right here on the Riley King Network. And that does it for my morning news report right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. And I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.